I made one mistake. I said no to the wrong man. Dante Moretti. The name that made Chicago's elite bow their heads. His family controlled the city from the shadows. Politicians feared him. Businessmen served him. And no one, absolutely no one, had ever refused him anything. Until me, a broke graduate student in a borrowed dress at a charity ball. When he demanded I dance with him in front of everyone who mattered, I looked into those cold steel eyes and said the word no one dared to speak. No. The room went dead silent, and he smiled at me like I had just signed my own death warrant. The next day, the roses arrived, then the gifts, then his shadow, following me everywhere I went. He was watching, learning, waiting. I thought he wanted to destroy me for embarrassing him, but what Dante Moretti actually wanted was something far more dangerous than revenge. This story will teach you that sometimes courage attracts exactly what you need, even when it comes wrapped in danger. That the person everyone fears might be the only one brave enough to truly see you. And that saying no can be the beginning of everything. If powerful love stories move your heart, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a story. Tell me in the comments, have you ever stood your ground when everyone expected you to back down? And if this story inspires you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Now, let me tell you how one word changed my entire life. I had no idea who he was when I publicly shamed him, which was my first critical mistake. The charity ball at the Sinclair Hotel was a fantasy come to life, exactly as I had pictured when my roommate Becca convinced me to go. 1,000 crystal lights fractured across polished marble floors. Women in gowns that cost more than my entire graduate education floated past displays of champagne and immaculate white roses. My own dress was a borrowed navy blue number, modest and completely forgettable. I felt like a fraud surrounded by generations of wealth and even older secrets. "Stay near me," Becca murmured, her arm locked with mine. "My boss warned me that half the people in this room have connections you should never know about." I gave a nervous laugh. "You mean things like hiding their taxes?" She looked at me. "Worse." I decided not to ask for details. I was 23 years old and buried under a mountain of student loans. This sparkling, lethal world was not my own. I was only a tourist. That was the moment he walked up to me. He cut through the crowd as if the sea itself was parting for him. He was tall, with broad shoulders, wearing a black suit that seemed molded to his form. His dark hair was swept back from a face of sharp angles, his eyes the color of smoke and cold steel. He was handsome in a calculated way, like a blade forged for one specific, deadly purpose. When he stopped right in front of me, the very air seemed to grow thin. "You will dance with me." It was not a request, it was a decree. I blinked, stunned by the sheer command in his tone. All around us, conversations faded and heads turned. People were watching with expressions I could not decipher: curiosity, maybe caution, and something else, something sharper. "I am so sorry," I managed to say. "Just one dance." His intense gaze held me captive, completely unblinking. "Say yes." There was something deeply wrong with the way the room was watching us. The woman next to me took a subtle step away. Becca's fingers dug into my arm, a silent warning. Maybe it was the borrowed gown, or the champagne that I had sipped too fast, or maybe it was a lifetime of being polite when I wanted to scream. Whatever it was, something inside of me finally broke. "No." His expression remained unchanged, but the silence that fell over the room became absolute. "No," he repeated as if he were testing the texture of the word itself. "I do not know you," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "And I do not dance with strangers who lack the basic courtesy to ask politely." Someone nearby gasped. A shadow passed over his eyes, a fleeting darkness. "You should reconsider that decision." "I really do not think I should." My heart was hammering against my ribs, but I held my head high. "I appreciate the offer, but I am going to decline." For a long moment, He just stared at me. He looked as though he was committing every single feature of my face to memory, filing it away for some future purpose. Then, a smile touched his lips. It held no warmth. It offered no kindness. It was the smile of a predator that had just settled on its prey. And I knew I would not enjoy what came next. Brave, he murmured, or incredibly foolish. With that, he turned and walked away. The entire room seemed to exhale at once. Becca seized my wrist, her face as pale as a sheet. Do you have any concept of who that was? Should I? That was Dante Moretti, she whispered, the name itself a threat. His family has this entire city in its grip. People do not say no to him, Elena. People do not even allow themselves to think it. A chill of pure ice shot down my spine. I did not know. It does not matter now. She was already dragging me toward the exit. We have to get out of here this instant. But as we burst through the grand doors into the crisp night air, I felt it. The undeniable weight of his gaze was following me. I risked a single glance back. He was standing at the window, a dark silhouette framed by the golden ballroom light, watching as I vanished into the darkness. I knew with a dreadful certainty that this was far from over. The flowers showed up the following morning. 24 white roses in a heavy crystal vase were delivered to my apartment without a card. They were just sitting there, pristine and cold. Becca stared at the arrangement as if it were a ticking bomb. He knows where you live. Perhaps they are not from him. Elena. The look she gave me said everything. Who else would send you roses the day after you shot him down in front of everyone? I reached out and touched a petal. It was as soft as silk. What could he possibly want? I have no idea. But men like Dante Moretti do not handle rejection. To them, it is just an invitation to a fight. I should have been terrified. Instead, what I felt was something much more dangerous. I felt curious. The gifts kept coming over the next week. A first edition of a novel appeared at the campus library, addressed to me. A reservation was made in my name at a 5-star restaurant I had once mentioned wanting to visit, though I could not recall who I had told. A coffee was waiting for me at my favorite cafe, already paid for, still perfectly warm. It was his way of showing me that he was paying attention, watching my every move, and learning everything about me. You have to report this, Becca insisted, while I was staring at the book, a very rare volume of poetry I had based a paper on months ago. File a police report. This is stalking. It does not feel threatening. Even as the words left my mouth, I was not sure I believed them anymore. But when I chose to ignore him, the gifts stopped, and something far more sinister started. I began to see him everywhere. Not up close, he never spoke, but he was always there. Across the street as I was leaving a lecture. In a black car idling on the corner as I walked home. Standing in the deep shadows of the campus courtyard with smoke curling from a cigarette, his eyes tracking my every step. He never got closer, never said a word. He just observed. It should have filled me with dread. Instead, it made my heart race in a way I could not begin to comprehend. One evening, I stopped walking and turned to confront the dark sedan that had been shadowing me for 3 city blocks. The rear passenger window glided down. He was sitting in the back, his expression a complete mystery. Get in. There is absolutely no way. Elena. The way my name sounded coming from his lips felt uncomfortably intimate. It felt wrong. Get inside the car. Why are you doing all of this? My voice was trembling. I told you no. That should have been the end of our interaction. It was never going to be the end. He shifted forward just enough for the streetlight to illuminate his features, sharp, beautiful, and incredibly dangerous. You made a decision in front of every person who matters in my world. You embarrassed me. So this is about revenge. No. His gaze held mine firm through the open window. This is a correction. I do not understand what you mean. You will. The window slid shut, and the car pulled silently away, abandoning me on the deserted street. When I finally got back to my apartment, shaking uncontrollably, another gift was waiting. It was a small velvet box. Inside, there was a key. No note, no explanation, just a single key resting on black satin. I picked it up with trembling fingers. At that exact moment, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. "You will need that soon." I stared at the message, then at the key, then at the darkness pressing in on my windows. I realized with a creeping horror that Dante Moretti was not trying to court me. He was in the process of claiming me as his own. I did not use the key. For 3 days, I carried it in my pocket like a heavy, cursed talisman, feeling its solid weight against my leg. I promised myself I would throw it in the river. I told myself I would hand it over to the police, but I did neither of those things. I kept it. On the 4th day, Becca did not return home. Her shift at the restaurant was over at 10 o'clock. By midnight, she still had not answered any of my calls. By 1 a.m., a full-blown panic had taken hold of me. I called her restaurant. They confirmed she had left right on time. I called all of her friends. None of them had seen her. I finally called the police. They told me I had to wait 24 hours to file a report. At 2 a.m., my phone's screen lit up. It was the unknown number again. "She is safe, for the moment." My blood ran cold. A second message appeared. "Use the key." My hands were shaking so violently I could barely type a response. "Where is she?" The answer was immediate. "The address is programmed into your car's GPS. Come alone. You have 30 minutes. I should have called for help. I should have started screaming. I should have done anything in the world except what I did next. But the agonizing thought of Becca being in danger because of me, because I had defied the wrong man, made the choice brutally simple. I grabbed my coat and fled into the night. The address took me to the warehouse district, where massive industrial buildings sat like sleeping beasts beneath a black, starless sky. My little car looked pathetic here, so small and fragile among the giant shipping containers and cold concrete. The building at the address was a renovated warehouse with windows that were completely blacked out and a single imposing door. I walked toward it on legs that felt like jelly, took out the key, and pushed it into the lock. It turned with a smooth, silent click. The moment I stepped inside, the world changed. The industrial exterior concealed a magnificent penthouse. The exposed brick walls were adorned with original paintings. Expensive leather furniture was arranged around a fireplace where real flames danced and crackled. From floor to ceiling, windows offered a breathtaking view of the glittering city. And sitting in a large armchair with a glass of whiskey in his hand was Dante Moretti. "Where is she?" I demanded, my voice cracking with fear and anger. "Upstairs. She is asleep. She is completely unharmed. You kidnapped my friend. I retrieved her." He carefully placed his glass on a table and rose, approaching me with that familiar, predatory grace. "She was being followed by men who planned to hurt you by hurting her. I eliminated the threat. You are lying to me. Am I?" He took out his phone, tapped the screen, and then held it out for me to see. The video showed Becca leaving the restaurant. 3 men dressed in dark clothing stepped out of an alley, following her, closing the distance between them. Then the footage cut to a completely different angle. Dante's men intercepted the attackers with brutal efficiency. After a brief, violent struggle, the 3 men were on the ground, restrained. Becca was being guided into a black car, looking confused but physically safe. The room started to spin. Who were those men? Rivals. People who took notice that I have been somewhat distracted recently. His eyes found mine and held them. "Because of you. This is completely insane. This is my world." He took another step closer, forcing me to back up against the solid door. "You stepped into it the moment you humiliated me. You do not get to just walk away now because you are afraid." "I am not afraid of you." Liar. He was right, I was terrified. But it was not for the reasons he imagined. I was scared because some small part of me wanted to stay right here. I wanted to understand the man who collected rare poetry and orchestrated calculated violence with the same steady hands. What do you want from me? I whispered. He moved his hand toward me with deliberate slowness, giving me every chance to flinch away, and then he gently moved a single strand of hair from my cheek. The tenderness of the gesture was impossible. I need you to see the real me, he said, his voice low. Not the family name, and not the stories you have heard. Just me. I asked, why me? He answered, because you are the only person in 10 years who has looked me in the eye and told me no. For a moment, a flash of something unguarded crossed his face. It was a vulnerability he concealed almost instantly. He continued, I have to know what made you do that. I told him I had no idea who he was. You knew enough, he countered. Everyone around you warned you to be afraid of me. His thumb lightly traced the line of my cheekbone. But you refused to back down. That kind of bravery is exceptionally rare, and it can be very dangerous. I questioned him. Is that the reason you are doing this? Because I represent some kind of a challenge to you? At first, his hand fell away from my face. Not anymore, he said. I could not grasp his full meaning, but I felt the truth of it in the sudden change in the atmosphere between us. This was something that had moved far beyond simple games and struggles for power. Let me take you to see Becca, he offered, taking a small step back. Let me show you that I am not your adversary. I had to ask, then what are you? He offered a smile that was full of sorrow and knowledge. I suppose that is what this next month is for. When I went upstairs, I discovered Becca fast asleep in a guest suite that was far more luxurious than any five-star hotel. She was perfectly safe and completely unharmed, exactly as he had promised she would be. When I came back down the staircase, Dante was standing by the front door, waiting. My personal driver will take you both back to your home, he explained. Then he said my name, Elena. I stopped. You should keep the key. I have a feeling you are going to need it again. I asked, why would I ever have a reason to return here? His eyes were filled with secrets so deep, I could not even start to comprehend them. He replied, because now that you have had a glimpse inside this world, you will feel compelled to understand all the rest of it. The most infuriating part was that I knew he was absolutely right. He gave me 3 full days of absolute silence. That was 3 days for me to try to persuade myself that our encounter was finished, that the heavy key sitting in my desk drawer was just a peculiar memento from a strange protector, that a man like Dante Moretti would quickly move on to a woman far more suited to his perilous life. Then, on the 4th day, someone made an attempt on my life. I was just walking out of the university library after a late evening of studying when a car suddenly leaped over the curb. There was no time to react, only the piercing scream of tires on pavement and the terrifying blur of dark metal hurtling directly at me. I was frozen in place. Then, a pair of strong hands seized my waist and violently pulled me backward. We crashed to the hard ground, my fall cushioned by the solid body of another person. The car slammed into the metal streetlight in the exact spot where I had been standing only a second before. I could not draw a breath. My mind was a complete blank. Do not move. Dante's voice was a rough sound right next to my ear. His arms were a steel cage locked tightly around me, and his heart was pounding like a drum against my back. The car's engine roared as it shifted into reverse. For a terrifying moment, I was sure it would charge at us again, but a large black sport utility vehicle appeared from out of nowhere, cutting off its path. Several men dressed in dark suits got out, and the sharp sound of gunfire echoed through the night. The shots were quick, precise, and expertly controlled, and then there was only silence. Dante quickly helped me get back on my feet, his hands urgently moving over my arms and my shoulders, searching for any injuries. Are you hurt anywhere? He demanded. I just shook my head, completely speechless from the shock. Get her away from here, he commanded to someone beside us. To the safe house, right now. I finally managed to find my voice. Wait, What in the world just happened? His jaw was clenched so tightly, and waves of pure fury were rolling off of him. Someone just tried to take you away from me, he stated. That is something that will not happen again. I was confused. Take me from you? I do not belong to you. He cupped my face with both of his hands, compelling me to look directly into his intense eyes. Yes, you do, he insisted. You became mine at the very moment you spoke my name. You just were not aware of it yet. Before I could even think of a reply, I was being guided into the back of the sport utility vehicle. Dante smoothly slid into the seat beside me, his phone already pressed to his ear as he spoke in rapid-fire Italian. The words were a string of commands and threats, the language of pure violence delivered with a chilling and elegant precision. The designated safe house was, in fact, a magnificent penthouse apartment in one of the city's most exclusive and expensive skyscrapers. It was a world of floor-to-ceiling glass, polished steel, and countless security cameras. You will be staying here, Dante announced, shrugging off his tailored jacket. I saw a smear of blood on his shirt, but I knew it was not his own. My men will be stationed right outside your door. You are not to leave this place without me. I told him, this is basically kidnapping. He corrected me. This is called protection. He went to the bar and poured himself a drink, which he consumed in a single swallow. The people who attempted to kill you tonight are not going to give up. They will try to come after you again, and they will be more determined next time. Do you fully comprehend what that means? My voice trembled when I spoke. No, I do not understand any part of this. I am a nobody. I am just a graduate student. Why would anyone on earth want me dead? He replied, because I want you to be alive. The stark simplicity of his statement completely stole my breath. He placed his empty glass down on the counter and walked toward me slowly, as if he expected me to run. I have powerful enemies, Elena. These are families who have waited for many years for me to show any sign of weakness. You, he said, are my weakness. The very moment I showed my interest in you, the moment I began watching over you and protecting you, they took notice. I begged him, then just stop. I hugged my arms tightly around my body. Just forget that you ever met me. Let me return to my normal life. He said, I cannot do that. Why can you not? I asked. His expression was filled with genuine anguish. Because even if I were to walk away from you right now, they would not. You have already been marked. The only possible way for you to survive what is coming is if you remain very close to me, under my personal protection. I desperately wanted to scream and to cry, to rage against the profound unfairness of my situation. Instead, I asked the one single question that truly mattered. For how long will this last? He answered, until I have completely eliminated the threat, or until... He did not finish his sentence. Until what? I pressed. He replied, until you finally understand that you are far safer inside my world than you ever were in yours. During the days that followed, I slowly adapted to the particular rhythm of my new captivity. Dante's security team rotated in precise shifts outside the penthouse door. I was given immediate access to absolutely everything I could possibly need. My university textbooks were delivered, along with my laptop, and my meals were prepared by a private chef. I was able to continue my work, to study, and even to have video calls with my professors. But I was never allowed to leave. And every single evening, Dante would come. He never laid a hand on me or pushed me in any way. He would just arrive sometime after dark, pour a drink for himself, and then he would ask me about my day. We would talk for hours about books, about philosophy, about nearly everything, except for the constant violence that was simmering just beyond the penthouse windows. Why do you continue to do this? I finally asked him one evening, observing him from the other side of the vast living room. This kind of life, this entire empire that you have built on fear. He was born into this life. He explained, I did not get to choose it. He stared down into the amber liquid in his glass. My father was killed when I was only 19 years old. The entire business fell directly onto my shoulders. I had to either become strong enough to maintain control of it, or I would have to stand by and watch my entire family be completely destroyed by the vultures. I suggested, "There must have been some other option available to you." He shook his head. There was not. His intense eyes finally met mine across the room. In the world I live in, Elena, you are either the predator or you are the prey. There is absolutely no middle ground. There is no such thing as a peaceful retirement. You either survive or you die. I said, "That is not really living." "No," he quietly agreed with me. "It is not." The sheer vulnerability I heard in his voice managed to crack something deep inside my chest. "What would you do?" I asked him very carefully. "If you were able to just walk away from all of this?" He actually smiled then, but the smile never managed to reach his eyes. "I would purchase a small house by the sea, somewhere that absolutely no one knows my name. I would spend all day reading books, and I would sleep at night without a loaded gun underneath my pillow." He took a short pause. "And I would find a woman who looks at me as if I am just a man, instead of some kind of monster." I told him, "I do not believe that you are a monster." His intense gaze immediately snapped to meet mine. "Then what do you believe I am?" he asked. I was starting to suspect the truth, even if I did not know for sure yet. I was beginning to see beyond all the violence and the immense power to something much more complex that was hidden underneath. It was something that frightened me much more than any weapon or any threat ever could. It was something that felt strangely like recognition. 2 weeks into my confinement, I had to stop calling it that in my own mind, because the word captivity implies a strong desire to escape, and the truth of my situation was becoming much harder for me to deny. I felt a greater sense of safety inside Dante's lavish penthouse than I had ever felt in my own small apartment. I felt safer than I had felt in many years. It was possible I had never felt this safe in my entire life. That particular realization should have filled me with absolute horror. Instead, the feeling settled deep down into my bones, as if it were an undeniable truth. "Your friend has been calling you repeatedly," one of Dante's men informed me one afternoon. "Becca, she is getting very worried." I explained, "I have been sending her text messages." He added, "She wants to come and visit you." I looked over at Dante, who had just walked in for his customary evening visit. He was still in his expensive suit, although he had loosened the knot of his tie. I could see the tension in the set of his shoulders, which was a sign I had learned to read as meaning his day had been especially difficult. "Would it be safe?" I asked him. He took a moment to consider my question. "I believe I can arrange it. She can have 1 hour here under full security," I said. "Thank you." The hardness in his expression seemed to soften just a little. "You do not have to express gratitude to me for allowing you to see your friend, Elena." "Do I not?" I met his gaze directly. "You currently control every single aspect of my life," he countered. "I only control the parts that are keeping you alive and breathing." Becca showed up the very next day, her eyes growing wide as she took in the sheer opulence of the penthouse. The very moment the heavy door clicked shut behind her, she rushed over and grabbed my arms. "Are you all right? I mean, are you really and truly okay?" I assured her, "I am fine. I promise you that I am." She exclaimed, "Elena, this whole situation is completely insane. You are living here with a known Mafia boss." I tried to clarify, "I am not actually living with him. I am simply under his protection." She asked, "And what is the real difference between those two things?" I honestly did not have a good answer for her. She carefully studied my face for a long moment, and then her own face grew pale. "Oh my goodness," she whispered. "You are developing feelings for him." I denied it. "I am not." She insisted, "Do not lie to me. I can see it written all over your face." Her voice dropped even lower. "You cannot possibly be serious about this. This man is incredibly dangerous. He has likely killed people." I replied, "I know what he is." "Do you really?" she questioned. Because from where I am standing right now, you look just like someone who is starting to forget what reality is. Perhaps she was completely right. Maybe I was beginning to lose all of my perspective. I was trapped inside this beautiful glass tower with a man who could discuss brutal violence in the same casual tone that other people use to discuss the day's weather. But whenever Dante looked directly at me, I did not see a cold-blooded killer. I saw a man who was utterly exhausted by the difficult role that he had been forced to play for most of his life. I saw someone who desperately wanted to be seen as something more than just his worst possible actions. After Becca had gone, I went looking for Dante and found him out on the terrace, smoking a cigarette. The entire city was spread out far below us, a sea of lights completely indifferent to our complicated lives. She is very worried about you, he stated, without even turning to look at me. I replied, she has every reason to be. Does she? He questioned, finally glancing over at me. Do you feel unsafe while you are here? I thought about lying to him. I considered saying yes, and then using that as a weapon to demand that he give me back my freedom. But the truth was, I had never been very good at being dishonest. No, I admitted in a quiet voice. I actually feel the complete opposite of that, and that is what scares me more than anything else. He turned to face me completely then, his cigarette now forgotten. Why does feeling safe here scare you so much? He asked. Because I know I should not feel safe with a person like you. It does not make any logical sense. You have turned my entire life completely upside down. You are the reason I have become a target. You have effectively taken away all of my freedom. I paused, then added, and yet, when you are here in this penthouse with me, I sleep better at night. That final confession felt exactly like stepping off the edge of a very high cliff. My mind fills with a specific kind of fear whenever you are gone. It is not a fear for myself, but entirely for you. I find myself constantly wondering if you are unharmed, if you are coming back. This is not a normal reaction. In fact, nothing about our situation is normal. He moved a step nearer, his voice dropping to a low murmur. But perhaps we should not value what is normal. It is possible that what we have is so much better. What is it that we have? He lifted his hand, his fingers hesitating just an inch from my face, a deliberate pause before making any contact. We have honesty. I never try to pretend I am a good man when I am with you, and you never try to pretend that I have no effect on you. That kind of truth is far more uncommon than you realize. My breathing stopped when his hand finally closed the distance, the warmth of his palm resting against my cheek. I want to kiss you, he confessed in a quiet tone. I have wanted to ever since you first told me no, but I will not until you say yes. My heart was pounding inside my chest. Why? He asked. It is because you deserve the freedom of choice I attempted to steal from you that night. You deserve the power to make this decision for yourself. I should have refused. I should have drawn back from him. I should have forced myself to recall every single reason this was a mistake. But standing in that moment with his hand on my cheek and the city glowing behind him, I could not think of even one. Yes, was the only word I could whisper. He kissed me as if I were something delicate and rare, his touch careful and full of restraint, as his other hand came up to hold my face. His lips felt much softer than I ever could have imagined, and his touch was almost reverent. I was trembling when he finally pulled away. Are you okay? He asked, his thumb gently stroking the line of my cheekbone. I could only nod, not trusting myself to speak. We do not have to move quickly on this. We have plenty of time. Yet, as soon as he spoke the words, we were both aware of the lie. In his world, time was the single luxury that neither of us possessed. That kiss shifted everything between us. After that evening on the terrace, Dante felt simultaneously closer and farther away. He maintained his routine of coming every night. But a new awareness now existed between us, something electric and filled with danger. He would choose a seat nearer to me. He would let his hand linger when it touched mine. He would watch me with a focus so intense it made my skin feel warm. But he did not kiss me again. Why is that? I finally asked him one evening, completely frustrated by the tension I could see etched into the rigid lines of his posture. Because if I start, he answered with great care, I will not want to stop. And you are not prepared for that just yet. How can you possibly know what I am ready for? Because you still recoil whenever my men talk about their work. It is because you shut your eyes when I mention my rivals. It is because you are still desperately trying to convince your own heart that none of this is actually happening. His intense gaze held me completely still. When you finally stop resisting it, I will know. That is pure arrogance. No, that is experience. I desperately wanted to challenge him, but I knew he was correct. A part of my mind was still holding out hope that I would wake up and return to my ordinary life. I was still trying to separate the man who could casually discuss killings over a meal from the man who would bring me tea just because he noticed I was not sleeping well. That line was becoming more and more difficult to see. 3 weeks into my stay under his protection, Dante vanished. The first night, I reasoned with myself that he must be occupied. By the second night, I started to worry. On the third night, I was pacing the penthouse like a trapped creature, demanding information from his guards. He is taking care of business, one of them finally said. He will be back when the situation is secure. What sort of business? They gave me no reply. On the fourth night, I decided to use the key. I knew I should not have done it. The choice was reckless and foolish, and precisely what Dante had warned me against. But I could no longer endure the uncertainty. I could not bear the crushing silence. The warehouse was completely dark when I got there. My hands were trembling as I unlocked the heavy door and stepped into the darkness inside. The penthouse was a war zone. Chairs were toppled over. Crystal fragments littered the expensive rug like fallen ice. And in the middle of the destruction, Dante sat on the ground, his back slumped against the sofa, his knuckles raw and bloody. You should not be here, he said, his voice flat, his eyes fixed on nothing. I hurried over to him, my knees hitting the floor. You are bleeding. That is not my blood. His words were supposed to be reassuring, but they sent a chill through me instead. What happened here? A betrayal, he answered, his tone hollow with exhaustion. One of my own. He fed information to our rivals. He led them right to one of our shipments. I lost 3 good people because of what he did. Where is he now? Finally, his gaze lifted to meet mine. The cold fury I saw in his eyes made my breath catch in my throat. I took care of it. I knew exactly what that meant. I understood the violence that had taken place. I was supposed to feel terrified. I should have turned and fled. Instead, I reached for his hand, the one stained with blood that did not belong to him, and I held it tight. I am so sorry, I whispered. For what? He asked. That this is the life you have to lead. That these are the choices you are forced to make. I saw a flicker of something break in his expression. You should be afraid of me, Elena, not trying to comfort me. I know. The way he spoke my name felt like both a desperate plea and a grave warning. You have to get out of here before I do something we will both live to regret. And what if I do not want to go? His jaw muscles clenched. Do not say things like that. Why should I not? I moved in closer, closing the space between us. You told me you would wait until I stopped fighting you. I am done fighting now, Dante. You have no idea what you are asking of me. Then show me what it is. For a long, silent moment, he did nothing but stare at me. Then he rose to his feet, pulling me up along with him. His motions were precise and controlled. Despite the storm of violence I could feel raging just beneath his skin. If I show you, he said, his voice barely a whisper, there is no turning back from it. You will see every part of me. You will see the pieces I have always kept in the shadows, the darkness I have worked so hard to shield you from. Are you certain that is what you truly want? My heart was hammering against my ribs. Yes. He scanned my face as if committing it to memory, searching for any flicker of hesitation. Finding none, he kissed me. It was not a gentle kiss this time, not a careful one. This was a kiss of pure hunger and raw possession, the culmination of 3 weeks of shattered restraint. His fingers tangled fiercely in my hair as his body pinned me against the wall. I let out a gasp against his lips, and he consumed the sound, deepening the kiss until I could no longer remember why I ever believed staying away from him was possible. When he finally broke the kiss, we were both struggling for breath. "You have to be absolutely certain," he said, his lips still brushing against mine. "Tell me that you are certain." "I am certain," I whispered back. His eyes searched mine for one final moment. Then he captured my hand in his and guided me up the stairs toward his bedroom, toward the point where there would be no return. His bedroom was dimly lit and intimate, with windows stretching from the floor to the ceiling that offered a view of the sprawling city. A large bed dominated the center of the room, and everything was decorated in shades of charcoal and black. Dante shut the door behind us, and the space suddenly seemed much smaller, the atmosphere much heavier. I remained in the middle of the room, trembling, though it was not from any sense of fear. He walked toward me slowly, giving me every opportunity to change my mind. When he finally stood before me, he cupped my face with incredible gentleness, his thumb tracing the curve of my bottom lip. "We can end this at any moment," he said in a quiet voice. "You just have to say the word." I managed a nod, not trusting my ability to speak. He kissed me once more, this time more slowly, as if savoring the taste. His hands moved to my waist, then traveled up my sides, learning my shape through the fabric of my dress. Each touch felt deliberate and controlled, as if he was still holding a part of himself back even in this moment. "Tell me what it is you want," he murmured, his lips against my neck. I was unable to form any words, completely unable to articulate the powerful need that was surging through my body. So, I decided to show him instead, my shaking fingers reaching for the buttons on his shirt. He gently caught my hands in his. "Elena, look at me." I lifted my head to meet his intense gaze. "I need to hear you say the words," he said. "I need to know that this is truly what you desire, that you are the one choosing this. I—" My voice was barely audible, just above a whisper. "I do not know how to say it. Just try. I want—" I took a shaky breath. "I want to feel close to you. I want to stop having this feeling that I am standing at the very edge of a cliff. I want to finally let go and fall." A softness entered his expression. "Then fall," he said. "I will be here to catch you." He kissed me again. And this time, when my hands went back to his shirt, he allowed it. He even assisted me, shrugging out of the garment and letting it drop silently to the floor. I had often wondered what he looked like beneath his impeccably tailored suits. But the reality was something entirely different. Scars crisscrossed his torso, marks of old violence written permanently upon his skin. They were evidence of a life lived constantly surrounded by danger. I gently touched one of the scars, a long, faded line that ran across his ribs. "A knife," he explained quietly. "5 years ago. I traced the path of another one. A bullet. That was 7 years ago. Every single scar represented a story. Each one served as a stark reminder of just how easily I could lose him forever." "Does this frighten you?" he asked, seeing the look on my face. "To see this?" "No." I looked up to meet his eyes. "It makes me feel sad that you have been injured so many times." "Elena." He breathed my name as if the sound itself caused him pain. Then he kissed me again, with more depth this time, his hands moving to find the zipper on my dress. He undressed me with a slow, careful precision, as if he were unwrapping something incredibly fragile. When I was standing before him with only my underwear on, I had to fight the powerful urge to cover my body. "You are so beautiful," he said. and the absolute reverence in his tone made me believe his words were true. He lifted me with no effort at all, as if I weighed absolutely nothing, and carried me over to the bed. He laid me down with care and then followed, his body settling over mine. "Tell me if this becomes too much," he said, pressing a kiss to my collarbone. "Tell me if you need me to go slower." I nodded, my hands coming to rest on his shoulders, feeling the tension that was coiled tightly in his muscles. He took his time with me, kissing every single inch of my exposed skin, learning all the things that made me gasp and what made me arch my body against his. His touch was incredibly patient and thorough, and it was designed to unravel me completely, one piece at a time. "Dante," I finally whispered his name, unable to withstand the slow, intense burn of his attention any longer. "I know." He kissed me with a soft tenderness. "I know." He reached over to the nightstand and retrieved protection. His movements were remarkably steady, despite the raw desire I could see burning brightly in his eyes. "This is your last chance," he said, as he positioned himself above me. "Tell me to stop right now, and I will." I reached a hand up to touch his face. "Do not stop." He entered me slowly, deliberately, giving my body time to adjust to him. I gasped at the new sensation, my fingers instinctively digging into the muscles of his shoulders. He froze instantly. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice strained with effort. "Yes, please," I begged. He started to move, cautiously at first, his eyes locked on my face, searching for any hint of discomfort. But as I started to relax, as my body began to accept him, his tight control started to fray at the edges. His movements became deeper and far more urgent. He buried his face in the curve of my neck, his breathing growing heavy and ragged. "You are mine," he whispered against my skin. "Say the word. Tell me you are mine." I was unable to form words. I could only cling to him as he moved within me, as pleasure mounted in powerful waves I did not know how to handle. "Elena, say the words. Yours," I finally gasped out. "I am completely yours." He let out a low groan, his rhythm breaking for a moment. Then he seized my mouth in a kiss that felt like he was branding me as his own, and my world shattered into a million pieces. He followed me only moments later, crying out my name. Afterward, we remained tangled in the sheets, our breathing heavy and ragged. He gathered me close against his chest, his hand gently stroking my hair. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice soft. I just nodded against him. "And you?" He gave a low laugh, the sound vibrating through his whole body. "I am much better than all right." We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped up in one another while the city lights twinkled outside the vast windows. "What is next for us?" I eventually asked. "Next?" His arms tightened around me, holding me securely. "Now, I will make certain that nothing in this entire world ever brings you harm again. Now, I will demonstrate that choosing me was not a terrible mistake. I do not think it was a mistake. You do not know that for sure yet, but you will." He pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. "I will spend the rest of my days proving it to you." It sounded like a solemn vow. In his world, I was beginning to understand. Vows like that were sealed in blood. But lying there, safe in his embrace, I discovered that I did not mind at all. I awoke to an empty space beside me in the bed and the sharp crack of gunfire. For a single confused second, I thought it was just a dream. Then the massive window exploded inward. "Get down!" Dante yelled as he burst into the room, already fully dressed with a pistol in his hand. He crossed the space in 3 long strides and pulled me from the bed, forcing me down to the relative safety of the floor. A shower of glass rained down around us. Another round of shots echoed, followed by angry shouts in Italian from somewhere else in the building. What is happening? I could barely make out my own question over the frantic pounding of my own heart. "They have found us." He used his body to shield me completely, his other hand already pressing his phone to his ear. "How many of them?" He barked into the device. More yelling, more gunshots. Stay right behind me, he commanded me. Do not look around. Do not make a sound. Just move exactly when I tell you to move. We began to crawl on our hands and knees toward the bedroom door. I focused my eyes on his back, on the way his powerful muscles coiled with every new sound of violence that erupted from downstairs. The penthouse that had felt like our personal sanctuary now felt like a deadly, inescapable trap. Once in the hallway, two of his men immediately formed a protective wall around us. "The service elevator," Dante commanded. "Right now." We made a run for it, or at least I did, while his men moved with the chilling precision of soldiers, their weapons raised as they cleared every corner. The entire structure of the building seemed to shake with the sound of splintering doors and more relentless gunfire. "How many are there?" Dante asked again into his phone. "At least 10. The Rossetti family." Dante's jaw became a line of granite. "They are becoming reckless." We finally made it to the service elevator. As the doors slid open, I was quickly shoved inside, but just before Dante could get in after me, one of his men caught his arm. "Sir, they have breached the lobby. We have to create a diversion to get them away from her." For a split second, I saw Dante look completely torn. Then his intense eyes locked with mine. "Marco is going to take you to the safe house on the other side of the river. You will remain there. Do not leave for any reason whatsoever." "I am not going to leave you here." "Yes, you are." He cupped my face with his hands and gave me a hard, desperate kiss. "This is not a discussion, Elena. I have to know that you are safe. I cannot fight them if my mind is worried about you. Now trust me. I will come for you." The elevator doors began to slide shut, and I watched him vanish from my sight as we started to descend. Marco, who was one of Dante's most loyal men, kept his firearm aimed at the closed elevator doors. "Try not to worry, miss. The boss has gotten through situations much worse than this." But I could easily detect the thread of doubt woven into his voice. The safe house was a completely anonymous apartment inside of an old, unremarkable building. Marco did a thorough sweep for any potential threats before taking up a position near the front door. "How long will we wait?" I asked, unable to stop pacing the floor. "As long as it needs to be." The hours crawled by like agonizing years. I had no appetite for food. I could not bring myself to sit still. Every little noise made my entire body jolt. Every creak from the old building sent my heart into a frantic race. Then my phone vibrated. An unknown number. "He is bleeding out. Did you know that your precious Dante is bleeding in the middle of the street because of you?" I just stared at the text message, a paralyzing cold spreading through my veins. A second message appeared. "This is the price of loving a man like him. Anyone he cares about becomes a target for his enemies. How many more people have to die simply because he chose you?" I showed the messages to Marco. His professional expression grew grim. "Block that number right now. Do not reply." "Is it true?" I asked. "Is he really hurt?" "If he were dead, we would have been notified. That means he is still in the fight." It was not very comforting. At midnight, the front door suddenly crashed open. Dante stumbled across the threshold. He was supported on either side by two of his men. His shirt was completely soaked through with blood. His face was ghostly pale, but he was breathing. "Oh, thank God." I rushed over to him. "I am okay," he insisted, but his voice was fragile. "It is just a graze. That is not a graze." There was so much blood everywhere. His men carefully guided him over to the sofa. One of them, an older man who was obviously a medic, started to cut his shirt away. The wound was in his side, and it was still bleeding freely. I knelt down on the floor next to him and took his hand in mine. "You promised me you would be careful." "I was," he said, attempting a small smile. "You ought to see what the other guys look like. This is not something to joke about." "No," he conceded, wincing in pain as the medic began to examine the wound. "It is not." They worked on him for what felt like an eternity, cleaning, stitching, and bandaging the injury. He never once made a sound, but I could feel his hand tighten its grip on mine with every single pass of the needle. When they were finally done, everyone except for the two of us filed out of the room. "Come here," he said in a quiet voice. I carefully climbed onto the couch beside him, being very mindful of his fresh injury. He gently pulled me against his uninjured side. "I am sorry," he whispered into my hair. "I am so sorry that you had to witness this, that you had to go through this terrible night. I am just so happy you are alive. They were coming for you, Elena. They knew that you would be staying in my apartment. They knew how much you mean to me." His voice was raw with a mixture of physical pain and deep-seated fury. "I have made you into a target. That is the one thing I swore to myself I would never, ever do. This is not because of you. It is. Everything that exists within my world eventually becomes corrupted. Every person I allow myself to touch ends up getting hurt." I pulled back so I could look him in the eyes. "In that case, it is a good thing I am not easily broken. You are the most delicate thing I have ever held in my life." Number one cupped his face between my hands. "I am the woman who made a choice to be with you, who continues to choose you every single day. That choice is what makes me strong, not fragile." His eyes searched mine for a long moment. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you ever choose this life? Why would you choose me?" "Because beneath all of the brutality and all of the power, I can see you. The real you. I see the man who brings me tea without me asking and who remembers the titles of my favorite books. I see the man who despises the things he is forced to do but does them anyway in order to protect the people that he loves. That man is worth choosing no matter what." He kissed me then, so gently, despite the agony he must have been feeling. "I do not deserve you." "Probably not," I agreed. "But you are stuck with me now anyway." For the very first time since the assault, a genuine smile touched his lips. It was real. He asked me to promise him something. "Anything," I said. He wanted a promise that I would not abandon him, that I would not abandon us, regardless of how terrible things became. I rested my forehead against his. "I promise you." Outside our sanctuary, the city carried on, completely unaware of us. Inside, we clung to one another as if the entire world was trying to rip us apart. The next day would surely bring renewed violence, more dangers, and more choices that felt impossible to make. But for this one night, we had each other. For this night, that was all that mattered. Dante took 3 full days to recover from his injuries. And within those 3 days, the entire situation transformed. His family showed up. Not the soldiers who served him, but his actual blood relatives. His mother was elegant with eyes that missed nothing. His younger sister was fiercely protective and full of suspicion. His uncle arrived, a man who very clearly managed large parts of their enterprise. They all came to the safe house, and they came specifically to evaluate me. "So," his mother began, her appraising gaze sweeping over me, "you are the young woman who has stirred up all this trouble." "Mama," Dante cautioned from the couch, his voice still weak from healing. "I am not assigning blame, I am simply observing." Her attention snapped back to me. "Do you have any real idea what it means to be with my son? Do you truly grasp what your life will become?" "I am beginning to," I started. "Beginning to," she echoed. "Carrara, you must understand it entirely, or it will utterly destroy you. In this family, there is no in-between." His sister, Isabella, folded her arms across her chest. "She is not one of our own. She has no concept of our world. How could she ever survive it?" Dante spoke quietly, his voice firm. "The same way you did. By being far stronger than anyone ever anticipates." Isabella's harsh expression softened just a little as she looked at her brother. "You truly have feelings for her." "Yes," he confirmed. "Enough to put everything on the line." I already have. His mother let out a long sigh. Then, she did something I never expected. She came and sat down right next to me. For his entire adult life, my son has never permitted himself to care about anyone outside of this family. He has been isolated in ways that would shatter most men. If you have somehow managed to get through to him, then you must be an exceptional person. She reached out and took my hand. But being exceptional is not always enough. Are you truly ready for what is coming? For the constant danger, the buried secrets, the compromises of your own morality? I do not know, I confessed truthfully. But I love him. Surely that has to mean something. In our world, love means both everything and nothing at all. It makes you powerful and defenseless at the very same time. She gave my hand a tight squeeze. Choose with great care, Elena. Because when you commit to this life, there is no turning back. After they were gone, I went to sit beside Dante on the sofa. Your family is intense. That is one way to describe it, he said. He gently pulled me closer. You do not have to go through with this. You know that, right? I can still keep you safe from a distance. I could set you up in a place that is secure. Somewhere my enemies will never be able to find you. You could have your ordinary life back again. Is that what you truly want me to do? I want you to be safe. I want you to be happy. Even if that requires me to let you go. I turned on the couch to face him directly. But what if the thing that makes me happy is being right here with you? What if I no longer want safe and normal? Elena, I have lived my entire life being cautious, being the good girl, following every single rule. And what did it get me? It left me alone in a tiny apartment, buried in debt, without a single meaningful connection to another person. I took his hand in mine. When I am with you, I finally feel alive. I feel terrified, absolutely, but alive in a way I have never experienced before. You would be giving up everything you have, your entire career, all of your friends, even the freedom to simply walk down the street without bodyguards. Is that honestly what you desire? I desire you. We will figure out all the rest of it together. He searched my face for a long, quiet moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box covered in velvet. This belonged to my grandmother, he explained, opening it to show me a ring inside. It was vintage and elegant, with a single beautiful diamond set in a band of complex metalwork. In my family, this ring symbolizes commitment. It means protection. It means you are now under the shield of our family, and any person who brings you harm will have to answer to all of us. My breath hitched in my throat. Dante, are you asking me? I am not proposing. Not right now. Not while you are still trying to decide if you can truly live with the man I am. He carefully removed the ring from the box. But I want you to have this. I want you to wear it so you know that you have time to make your choice. There is no pressure and no rush. Just think about it. He slid the beautiful ring onto my finger. It was a perfect fit. This feels very much like a proposal, I whispered, my voice barely audible. It is a promise that I will wait for your answer. It means I will give you all the space you need to choose this life with complete awareness, with your eyes wide open. He raised my hand and kissed my knuckles gently, and it means that regardless of your decision, I will always make certain you are safe. I looked down at the ring, watching as it captured the light. What if I have already made my decision? Have you really? I believe so. I think I made my choice the very night you first kissed me. Or perhaps it was even before that. It was the moment I stopped being scared of you and started being terrified of ever losing you. His eyes grew dark with powerful emotion. Are you certain about this? I am absolutely certain. He pulled me carefully onto his lap, ever mindful of his healing injury, and he kissed me as if I were his only salvation. Then you are mine, he murmured against my lips. Completely mine. And I am yours, no matter what happens next. No matter what, I agreed with him. Outside, His enemies were undoubtedly plotting their next attack. His family was observing, judging me, and waiting to see if I would eventually break. But in that room, we had each other. And somehow, that felt like it would be enough to face anything that was to come. The war concluded with a wedding, but it was not my own. The ring that belonged to Dante's grandmother still rested on my finger. It was a promise that we had not yet fulfilled. No, the wedding that altered the course of everything was a calculated strategic alliance. It was between Dante's family and the Cardels, a formidable family from the south. His cousin was set to marry their daughter, and every significant family in the territory would be there, and that included the Rossettis. They were the family who had tried to have me killed. It is considered neutral territory, Dante clarified, while his men assisted him with his tuxedo. His wound was now healed, but it had left behind another scar to add to his growing collection. Ancient traditions are in effect. No violence is permitted during a wedding ceremony. It is the one single place where I can negotiate without causing bloodshed. Or it is an elaborate trap. It is probably both of those things, he admitted. He turned to face me, looking devastatingly handsome in his black suit. You do not have to go. You could remain here where it is safe. I am going with you. I had already picked out my dress. It was a deep burgundy color, elegant and suitable for a Mafia wedding. Where you go, I go. That was the promise we made. Do you remember? He walked over to me and took both of my hands in his. If anything at all happens, nothing is going to happen. You are far too intelligent to walk into a trap without having a backup plan. He offered a slight, confident smile. 3 backup plans, to be exact. The wedding took place at a grand estate just outside the city, with vast gardens and a historic villa. Security personnel were everywhere, attempting to be discreet. I entered the event on Dante's arm, wearing his grandmother's ring, and I could feel the gaze of every single person in that room as they watched our arrival. The ceremony itself was lovely and traditional, the type of wedding that costs more than what most people earn in a lifetime. But the reception was where the actual business was conducted. Dante left me in the company of Isabella as he moved through the crowded room, shaking hands and exchanging quiet words with men whose faces I had come to recognize from security briefings. They were power brokers, supposed allies, and enemies, all forced into a temporary peace by ancient custom. He is in his natural element, Isabella noted, as she watched her brother work the room. This is precisely what he was born for. To negotiate with people who secretly want him dead. To lead them, to unite them, to make them believe in a cause that is bigger than their own insignificant grudges. She then glanced over at me. You have been a positive influence on him. He is different these days. He seems lighter somehow, in spite of everything. I do not understand how. His life has become so much more complicated since he met me. Complicated is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it simply means you now have something that is truly worth fighting for. She gently touched my arm. For whatever it is worth, you have my official approval, not that you ever needed it. I appreciate it nonetheless. It was at that moment that I saw him. It was Carlo Rossetti, the head of the very family that had ordered my death. He was standing across the reception hall, staring at Dante with open hostility, and he was beginning to move in our direction. Isabella immediately tensed beside me. Remain calm. Remember that this is neutral ground. Rossetti came to a stop directly in front of me, his smile chillingly cold. So, you are the grand prize. The girl who managed to bring Dante Moretti to his knees. I am Elena. I am well aware of who you are. Everyone in this room does. You are the vulnerability. You are the soft spot that every one of us can now exploit. Carlo. Dante's voice cut through the air, as sharp as broken glass. He appeared at my side in an instant, his hand resting protectively on the small of my back. You are violating protocol. The wedding ceremony has not officially concluded. I am merely making some introductions. Rossetti's cold smile did not falter for a second. Your girlfriend should know who her enemies are. She does. And she is not afraid of you. She should be. The tension around us crackled in the air. Nearby conversations abruptly stopped. Hands started to move toward weapons hidden beneath their jackets. I did something incredibly reckless. I took a step forward, placing myself between Dante and Rossetti. "You are right," I said, my voice clear and steady. "I should be afraid of you. You ordered my murder. You have attempted to harm Dante on multiple occasions. You are a dangerous and powerful man who clearly places no value on human life." Rossetti's eyebrows lifted in surprise. "So you do understand. But this is the part you fail to comprehend. Dante possesses something that you will never have. He has loyalty. It is not loyalty born from fear or from obligation, but because people genuinely put their faith in him. Because he protects his own people. Because when you launch an attack against him, you do not make him weaker. You simply remind everyone why they chose to follow him in the first place." I held his intense gaze. "So yes, I may be his weakness, but I am also his greatest strength. And you have just proven that fact to every single person in this room." There was complete silence. Then, very slowly, Carlo Rossetti began to applaud. "Brava! You possess courage. It is a foolish kind of courage, but it is courage all the same." He looked directly at Dante. "Perhaps she is worth all the trouble after all." "She is more than worth it," Dante replied quietly, his hand tightening its grip on my waist. Rossetti examined us both for another moment, and then he let out a sigh. "I will offer a truce. This is not about peace. I am nowhere near ready to forgive what your family has done, but we can agree to a cessation of direct hostilities for 6 months. After that time, we will revisit the situation," Dante proposed. Rossetti countered, "1 year, and you must surrender your claim to the harbor territory." Dante replied, 9 months, and the harbor remains mine. Done." Their handshake sealed the agreement, witnessed by people who would enforce their accountability. As Rossetti departed, a shaky breath escaped me. Did I actually just help broker a truce between them? "You certainly did." Dante drew me close, his lips brushing my temple. "That was either the single most courageous or the most foolhardy thing I have ever seen you do. It was both. Without a doubt, it was both." The remainder of the evening was a dizzying whirlwind of dancing, champagne, and carefully worded conversations with individuals who could become either allies or adversaries, all depending on which way the political winds blew. Yet, through every moment, I could feel Dante's solid, reassuring presence right beside me. When we finally returned to his apartment, the penthouse now fully restored after the attack, I sank onto the sofa in exhaustion. "I still cannot believe that actually worked," I murmured. "You managed to shame him into a truce, simply by pointing out that his attacks only made me a stronger asset to you. It was utterly brilliant." Dante settled next to me, gathering me into his arms. "It was also completely terrifying. Please, do not ever do that again. I can make no such promises." He let out a laugh, the deep sound vibrating through his chest. "What am I ever going to do with you? You could love me? Perhaps marry me someday? Let me assist you in transforming this organization into something less defined by violence." He leaned back, his eyes searching mine. "Are those demands, or merely suggestions? Let us call them strong suggestions. Elena Rossi." He gently cupped my face in his hands. "Will you marry me? I mean truly marry me. Not just wear my grandmother's ring as a symbol of a promise." My heart skipped a beat. "Are you being serious right now?" "I have never been more serious about anything in my entire life. Marry me. Become my wife. Help me construct something far better than the legacy I was handed. Give me a genuine reason to believe in a future that does not have to end in bloodshed." "Yes," I whispered softly. "Yes, I will marry you." He kissed me then, and the kiss tasted of pure hope. Epilogue. 6 months later. The wedding was an intimate, private affair, attended only by our family and most trusted allies. I chose a traditional soft white gown, embodying everything a mafia bride was expected to be. Dante was devastatingly handsome in a black suit, his gaze fixed on me throughout the entire ceremony. As he slid the simple wedding band onto my finger, right next to his grandmother's ring, I felt the profound weight of my decision. I was committing to a life that would be dangerous, unpredictable, and forever touched by a violence we could never entirely escape. But in that moment, I also felt the overwhelming power of his love, his protection, and his resolute belief that we could forge something better together. "I love you," he murmured, just as the priest pronounced us married. "I love you too." We kissed, and I understood with perfect clarity that this was only the beginning. There would be more conflicts, more adversaries, and more nights when the encroaching danger would make our love feel fragile in the face of brutality. But we would confront it all as one. Me and my mafia boss, the woman who initially said no, and the man who spent a month and the rest of his existence proving that I had made the right choice. You would do that? Surrender so much of your freedom? It is not about surrendering freedom. It is about accepting that someone in this world actually cares if I live or die. I took his hand, pressing its back against my cheek. And besides, you are not the only one who is frightened. Marcus has absolutely nothing left to lose, and I understand just how dangerous that condition makes a man. I do not want to be careless about my own safety. You could never be careless, Dante murmured softly. And then he was kissing me once more, this time with a gentler touch, though it was no less intense. His hands slid to my waist, lifting me with no effort at all until I was straddling him in the booth. I wrapped my arms around his neck, losing myself completely in the taste and the feel of him. When we eventually separated, both of us breathing heavily, Dante's eyes were dark with a mixture of desire and something much deeper. "Stay with me tonight. Not in your own apartment, but here, with me." I understood precisely what he was asking and what it signified to cross that particular line. "Dante, just for sleeping," he clarified, even though the possessive grip of his hands on my waist suggested a very different story. "I just want to hold you. I want to wake up in the morning knowing that you are safe. That is all. Unless, of course, you want something more." I should have refused. I should have preserved some kind of boundary between us. But the honest truth was that I desired this just as much as he did. I wanted to fall asleep in his arms. I wanted to wake up beside him. I wanted to stop resisting the undeniable connection that had been growing between us since the very moment I had shattered his window. "Okay," I whispered, "just to sleep." A slow, devastating smile spread across Dante's face as he rose, lifting me up along with him. "Liar," he murmured against my lips, "but I will accept whatever you are willing to give me." He carried me up the private stairway to his apartment, a space I had never seen before. It was larger and far more luxurious than mine. He laid me down on his enormous bed with a surprising tenderness. He then removed his clothes down to his boxer briefs and slid in beside me, pulling my body firmly against his chest. "This is just sleeping," I protested, though my voice was weak, and I was intensely aware of the heat radiating from his skin against mine. "Absolutely," Dante concurred, his hand slipping beneath my tank top to rest on the bare skin of my waist. "Just sleeping, with my hand on your skin, in my bed, exactly where you belong." A small laugh escaped me in spite of myself, and I curled into him, feeling more secure and content than I had in many years. "You are impossible. I am yours," he corrected, placing a soft kiss on the crown of my head. "Get some rest, sailor. Tomorrow, we will finish what Marcus started." I drifted to sleep in the arms of Dante Ravencraft, lulled by the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, and for the first time since my mother's diagnosis, I felt like maybe everything was going to be okay. I awoke to brilliant sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, with Dante's arm resting heavily across my waist. Sometime during the night, I must have turned toward him, because my face was now pressed against his bare chest, with one of my legs hooked over his. He was still sound asleep, his normally sharp features completely relaxed. A lock of dark hair had fallen across his forehead, making him appear younger and somehow less dangerous. I seized the opportunity to study him without interruption. I traced the strong line of his jaw, the faint scar above his eyebrow I had noticed before, and the intricate tattoos that adorned his arms and chest. From this close, I could make out the Italian words more clearly. La familia è tutto. Family is everything. You are staring, Dante mumbled, his voice still thick with sleep, his eyes remaining closed. You are worth staring at, I confessed, and then immediately felt a warm blush spread across my face. His eyes slowly opened, dark and warm, and his hand tightened its grip on my waist. Stay right here, just like this. Let me have this one moment before the day begins and everything becomes complicated again. So I stayed, letting him hold me close, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath my palm, and trying my best not to dwell on how right this felt, or how terrifyingly easy it would be to fall completely for this man who had shown me more genuine care in 3 weeks than I had known in years. My mother wants to meet you, I said in a quiet voice. She called me yesterday. I mentioned that I had moved, and now she wants to see my new place. And to see you. Dante's hand shifted to cup the back of my head, his fingers tangling gently in my hair. What exactly did you tell her about me? That you are my boss? That you helped me out when I was in need? That you are… My voice trailed off, as I was unsure how to even begin to categorize what Dante was to me. That I am yours, he finished for me in a soft tone. Tell her the truth, sailor. Tell her that you are with the most dangerous man in all of Chicago, and that he would burn this entire city to the ground before he would ever let anyone hurt you again. That might just scare her. Good. She should be scared for you. This world that I am bringing you into is not a safe one. It is violent and ruthless and completely unforgiving. But I will promise you this. As long as you are mine, you will never have to face it by yourself. His phone buzzed on the nightstand, violently shattering the quiet moment. Dante snatched it. His expression immediately darkened as he looked at the screen. What is it? I asked, sitting up. Marcus has made his move. 3 of my establishments were vandalized last night. The windows were broken, all the inventory was destroyed, and they left threatening messages behind. Dante was already on his feet, pulling on his clothes with an efficient, practiced speed. He is trying to provoke me into a confrontation. What are you planning to do? Dante turned to face me, and the man who had held me so tenderly just moments before had vanished completely. In his place stood the formidable Mafia boss that all of Chicago feared. He was cold, calculating, and absolutely lethal. I am going to give him precisely what he wants, a confrontation, but it will be on my terms, in my territory, and governed by my rules. He crossed back over to the bed, cupping my face between both of his hands. You are to stay here today. There will be security posted outside the door. There are no exceptions. This all ends tonight, sailor, one way or another. Let me come with you, I pleaded, grabbing onto his wrists. I can be of help. I know Marcus's tactics, I know his patterns, no. The word was final and absolute. You are not going anywhere near him. I will not risk you, not for this. But this all started because of me. It is because I stole from him. I needed that money for my mother's medical treatments. I have to be there when this is over. Dante's jaw went rigid. This stopped being about you the second Marcus started hunting you like prey in my city. Now, this is personal. It is between him and me. This is about power, about territory, and about making it crystal clear what happens when someone touches what belongs to me. You have no reason to witness that. He gave me a kiss that was hard, possessive, and felt like a final goodbye before he pulled back. Stay put. I am not joking, sailor. Do not step foot outside this apartment. Before I could say another word, he was gone. The heavy sound of the door closing echoed with a terrible finality. I spent the entire morning pacing the length of the apartment. Then I went to the private gym, trying to exhaust the nervous energy that was coursing through my veins. Dante had stationed 2 guards outside my door. They were silent, professional men who undoubtedly carried firearms beneath their expensive suits. Around midday, my phone began to ring. It was an unknown number. I considered ignoring it, but a strange impulse made me answer. Sailor Thorne. The voice on the other end was a woman's. It was clinical and completely unfamiliar. My name is Dr. Chen from Northwestern Memorial. I am calling in regard to your mother. My heart literally seized in my chest. What happened? Is she all right? She is in stable condition, but she has been asking for you. We've encountered a complication with her treatment, and she has become extremely agitated. She made a specific request for you to come to the hospital. I will be there in 20 minutes, I promised, already reaching for my jacket. I managed to get past Dante's security team with a lie, telling them I was just running down to the lobby bar. I said I had to check on something important. From there, I slipped out a rear exit and hailed a taxi to Northwestern Memorial. The hospital felt like familiar ground. I had spent countless months there during my mother's treatment, so I knew its corridors and waiting areas as well as my own home. I located her room on the oncology floor, pushed the door inward, and walked straight into the trap Marcus had set. He stood there with 2 of his men, but my mother was nowhere to be seen. The room was completely empty except for them, and I understood with a sickening certainty that there had never been a call from any Dr. Chen. I thought you were sharper than this, Marcus sneered, moving to block my only escape. But every person has a weak spot. It turns out yours is your mother. I took a step back, my mind frantically cycling through my defensive options. The space was tight, the odds were 2 against 1, and my ribs were far from healed. There was no way I could fight my way out of this room. Dante is going to kill you for this, I said, forcing a confidence into my voice that I did not feel. You must realize that, right? The very second he learns you laid a hand on me, you are a dead man. Perhaps. But before that happens, I intend to make you pay for dismantling my entire operation. After that, I will use you as a bargaining chip to make Ravencroft back down. He wants you so badly? Fine. He can have what is left of you after I am finished. As Marcus advanced on me, I did the only thing I could. I pressed the panic button on my watch. It was the one Dante had given me on my first day in his apartment, the one wired directly to his personal phone and his security detail. Then I began to fight. My first strike was a punch that landed squarely on Marcus's throat, which bought me a few precious seconds. His associate charged at me from the left, and I used the man's own momentum to throw him into a cart of medical equipment. However, the second man was larger, quicker, and he wrapped his arms around my waist, lifting me clear off the ground. A blinding pain erupted through my still-mending ribs as he brutally slammed me against the unforgiving wall. I slammed my elbow backward directly into his face. I felt the crunch of cartilage, but his powerful grip did not falter. Marcus was already getting to his feet, his features twisted into a mask of pure fury, and I knew with absolute certainty that I had no moves left. The door to the room suddenly imploded. Dante stormed through the doorway like a hurricane, with 4 members of his security team right behind him. His gaze locked onto me instantly, assessing the entire situation in a fraction of a second, and the expression on his face became the most frightening thing I had ever witnessed. Let her go. Each word he spoke was sharp and dripping with barely controlled violence. The associate who was holding me actually hesitated, and that single moment of indecision was everything Dante required. He moved with a deadly quickness, tearing me from the man's hold and placing me securely behind him in one seamless motion. Then, he drove his fist into the associate's face with so much force that the man was sent crashing through the thick glass of the hospital room's observation window. What happened next was both savage and efficient. Dante's security team swiftly neutralized Marcus's other man, while Dante himself gave Marcus his undivided attention. He did not use a weapon. He did not need one. His own hands delivered the punishment with a brutal, surgical precision. Every single strike was calculated to inflict the most pain without being lethal. "You," Dante snarled between blows, "dare to put your hands." Another devastating punch on what is mine. He was actually going to kill him. I could see it in the cold, methodical fury of his actions. He showed absolutely no mercy. Marcus was barely conscious, with blood pouring from his mouth and nose, yet Dante gave no indication that he was going to stop. "Dante." I grabbed his arm, trying to pull him away from the broken man. "Stop it! He is not worth it!" Dante turned his head to look at me, and for one heart-stopping second, I was not sure if he even saw me. Then his eyes finally focused, truly taking me in, and the murderous rage slowly drained from his face. "Did he hurt you?" His hands were on me in an instant, gently checking me for any injuries. His touch was so careful, a stark contrast to the violence he had just unleashed. "Sailor, did he touch you?" "I am fine. My ribs are aching, but I am okay." I cupped his face with my hands, making him look at me and not at Marcus's crumpled body on the floor. "I am okay because you came for me. Because you were the one who saved me." Dante gathered me against his chest, his arms wrapping around me with a desperate, crushing intensity. "You gave me your word you would stay in the apartment. You promised." He faked the call, pretending to be a doctor. "He said my mother needed my help. I am sorry. I am so very sorry. Never apologize for loving your mother." Dante's lips gently pressed against the top of my head. "But God, sailor, when I received your panic alert, when I saw your location..." His arms tightened around me. "I do not think I have ever been that terrified in my entire life." "Boss." One of his security men stepped into the room. "The police are on their way up. We have to be gone." Dante gave a slight nod, but did not let me go. "Anthony, get Marcus and his men to the warehouse. Make certain they fully understand the consequences for people who touch my woman. Then, ensure they leave Chicago before morning. I do not care what their destination is, as long as it is a long way from here." "What about the hospital?" I asked in a low voice. "Marcus needs a doctor. He will get one after he signs over every property, every single asset, and every last connection he has to me. Then he gets patched up and put on the first bus leaving the state." Dante's voice was like ice, absolutely final. He is fortunate that I am letting him live at all. We left the hospital using a service exit, easily avoiding the arriving police cars. Inside Dante's car, I finally began to tremble as the adrenaline crash hit me with full force. Dante pulled me close against his side, draping one arm over my shoulders, effectively holding me together as I started to come apart. "I could have gotten you killed," I whispered into the quiet of the car, "if you had shown up even 1 minute later." But I was not a minute later. You fought him off, you bought yourself crucial time, and you had faith that I would come for you. That is the only thing that matters. Once we were back in the apartment, Dante refused to let me leave his sight. He examined my ribs himself, carefully rewrapping the bandages, and gave me something for the pain. After that, he simply held me on the couch as I tried to process the chaos of the day. "It is finished," he murmured softly into my hair. "Marcus is gone from your life. His entire operation now belongs to me. Every underground fighting circuit in the city knows you are under my protection. You are safe now, sailor. You can finally stop running." "But what if I do not know how to stop?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "What if I have been fighting and running for so many years that I do not know how to just be safe?" Dante gently pulled back so he could look at me, his hands framing my face. "Then I will teach you how. Every single day, I am going to show you what it feels like to be protected, to be treasured, to be mine. And one day soon, you are going to believe it. I think I am falling for you." The confession tumbled out of my mouth before I could even think to stop it. "I know this is happening so fast, and it is probably insane, but I am falling for you, Dante, and it terrifies me more than anything." His smile was slow and utterly devastating. Good. Because I started falling for you the very moment you shattered my window, bleeding and defiant, and so breathtakingly beautiful it made my heart ache. I have just been waiting patiently for you to catch up. He kissed me then, a kiss that was gentle and sweet and absolutely perfect. I kissed him back, pouring 3 long weeks of fear and hope and a desperate, aching longing into the connection that was growing between us. I love you, Dante whispered against my lips. I am aware that it is far too soon and probably way too intense. But I love you, Sailor Thorn, and I am going to spend the rest of my days making absolutely certain you never have to doubt that. I should have been afraid of such a powerful declaration. I should have pulled away, but instead I leaned into his embrace, letting him hold me as I whispered back, I love you too. That night was more than just sleeping together. We made love with a slow, deliberate tenderness. Dante was so aware of my healing ribs, his hands treating my skin like it was something sacred. And as I lay in his arms afterward, I finally grasped what Lucia had been trying to tell me. Dante Ravencroft was not a man for casual encounters. He did not believe in temporary things. When he gave his heart, he gave it completely, with an obsessive, unending devotion. I was finally ready for that. I was ready for all of it. 6 months later, I was standing inside what was once Sal's grimy gym in Pilsen. I watched as contractors worked to turn the space into something entirely new. Dante was right beside me. His hand rested on the small of my back, a touch that felt warm, familiar, and perfectly right. Are you certain about this? He asked, for the third time just that morning. I am absolutely sure. I leaned against him, my eyes on the blueprints stretched over a makeshift table. The Diamond Women's Boxing Academy. It would be a sanctuary where women could train the right way, learn to defend themselves, and never have to fear being used by men like Marcus. Dante's arm wrapped firmly around my waist, and I could feel his deep satisfaction in that simple gesture. After Marcus was forced out of Chicago, signing over all his assets to Dante, we took months to dismantle his operations. We shut down or legitimized most of the underground fighting circuits. The gyms were either sold off or repurposed. This very space, where I had fought for my survival for 3 long years, was being reborn into a place that would actually empower women. Your mother would be so proud of you, Dante said in a low voice. A real smile touched my lips. My mother had met Dante about a week after I got out of the hospital. She was absolutely terrified of him at first. He was the exact kind of dangerous man that mothers always warn their daughters about. But then she saw the way he looked at me. She noticed how gentle he could be, despite his fearsome reputation, and she finally understood. He is keeping you safe, she told me later, while holding my hand tight. That is the only thing that matters to me. Now, her cancer was in complete remission. Her medical bills were entirely taken care of through Dante's insurance contacts, which was his way of saying he had paid for everything himself. She had moved into a beautiful new apartment, also thanks to Dante, and she now spent her days volunteering at the very hospital that had treated her. Have you chosen the instructors yet? Dante asked, his eyes scanning the detailed blueprints. I plan to teach the beginner classes on my own. I am also recruiting some of the women I used to fight alongside over the years, the ones who managed to escape the underground scene and build legitimate careers. They have earned the chance to give something back. They can teach the next generation how to truly protect themselves. And the security for the building, I rolled my eyes playfully, is as excessive as I expected from you. But yes, I have approved all your security plans. We will have guards during the evening classes, cameras installed in all the common areas, and panic buttons located in every single room. You will know that I am safe for every single moment that I am here. Dante gently turned me to face him, his strong hands resting on my hips. In the 6 months since Marcus had been removed from Chicago, we had settled into a comfortable rhythm. I worked at his bar during the mornings, trained women privately in the afternoons, and dedicated my evenings entirely to him. We had moved into his apartment for good, but he insisted on keeping my old place as a separate office where I could manage the academy's administrative work. "I cannot help myself," he said, his fingers gently tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "Keeping you safe has become a fundamental part of who I am now. Besides, you made me a promise, do you remember?" My hand instinctively went to my stomach, which was still flat, but it would not be that way for much longer. I remember. We had learned only 2 weeks ago that I was pregnant, already 12 weeks along, though we had not shared the news with anyone. The discovery had pushed Dante into an entirely new dimension of protectiveness. It would have felt suffocating if it was not so clearly coming from a place of deep love. "Twins," he murmured, his hand covering mine where it rested on my stomach. "Two little babies. My doctor mentioned it is common in families that share your genetic history. Your doctor also said that I am in perfect health and can keep up with my normal activities, just with a few adjustments." I rose on my toes to kiss him. "That means you can finally stop trying to wrap me in bubble wrap." "I am making no promises," he said, but he kissed me back with a soft, sweet pressure. I felt his smile form against my lips. "You are carrying my children, sailor. I am allowed to be a little protective." "You are always protective." "That is true," he admitted. "But now I have an excellent reason for it." Lucia appeared at the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee and looking every bit the powerful businesswoman she had become. "Are you two finished being so disgustingly cute?" she asked. "We have contract negotiations to attend to in 20 minutes. "We are never finished being disgustingly cute," Dante answered without missing a beat. But he let me go and walked over to the table where Lucia was laying out another set of documents. I watched the two of them work. They were brother and sister, discussing business with the same sharp intelligence, and I was struck by how much my life had transformed. 6 months ago, I was bleeding and broken, desperate enough to smash windows in the middle of the night. Now, here I was, planning the opening of my own academy, pregnant with twins, and deeply in love with a man who had rearranged his entire universe just to ensure my safety. "Sailor," Lucia called out to me, "I am going to need your signature on these insurance documents." I walked over to join them at the table, carefully reading through the papers before I signed my name. The academy was insured against everything you could possibly imagine: fire, theft, personal injury, even natural disasters. Dante had left nothing to chance. "Have you given any thought to names?" Lucia asked in a casual tone, but her eyes were bright with sharp curiosity. I looked over at Dante, and he just shrugged. "We were planning to wait a little longer before telling people." "Please," Lucia scoffed with a smile. "I have seen the way my brother looks at you. I think I knew you were pregnant even before you did." She smiled warmly. "Besides, I have every intention of becoming the favorite aunt. That means I need to get involved from the very beginning." "If they are both boys, I was thinking we could use Italian names," I offered. "It would be a way to honor Dante's heritage. If they are both girls, I want to name them after strong women that I have known in my life." "And what if it is one of each?" Dante asked, pulling me closer. "Then we will find a compromise, just like we do with everything else." I leaned fully against him, feeling his warmth and his strength. I felt the absolute certainty that he would guard our growing family with the same fierce intensity he had used to protect me. The contractors came back from their lunch break, and we used the rest of the afternoon to make the final decisions for the academy. By the time evening arrived, my feet were hurting and my back was aching, and Dante noticed right away. "Home," he commanded gently. "You need your feet up, dinner delivered, and an early night." "I am pregnant, not made of glass," I protested, but I let him lead me to his car without any real resistance. "You are both," he corrected me, opening the passenger door with the carefulness of a man handling something truly priceless. "And I love you for it." Later that night, curled up in our bed with Dante's hand resting protectively over my stomach, I thought about the chain of events that had brought me to this moment. The desperate act of theft that had started everything, the terrible violence that had driven me to his doorstep, and the slow journey through fear and trust to the gradual realization that safety can be found in the most unlikely of places. "What are you thinking about?" Dante asked, his thumb tracing slow circles on my skin. "I am thinking that I broke your window and somehow found my way home," I answered softly. "I am thinking that the man everyone else is afraid of is the kindest person I have ever known. That you took the absolute worst night of my life and turned it into the beginning of everything good." Dante shifted his weight, propping himself on an elbow so he could look down at me. In the soft glow from the city lights outside, his dark eyes looked warm and endless. "I told you on that very first night, 'You are mine, sailor.' That has not changed at all. If anything, that feeling has only grown stronger with every day we have spent together." "I know. I feel the exact same way. This," I said, gesturing to the space between us. "This was never what I expected my life to be, but it is exactly what I needed. You are what I needed." He kissed me then, a kiss that was slow and deep and absolutely perfect. His hand never left my stomach, where our children were growing safely. "I love you," he whispered against my lips. "I love our babies. And I love this life that we are building with each other. I promise you, Sailor Thorn, that I will spend the rest of my existence making sure you never have a single reason to regret breaking my window that night. I could never regret it. You saved me, Dante. You saved me in every possible way a person can be saved." "We saved each other," he corrected, pulling me even closer to him. "You were in need of protection, and I was in need of someone who was worth protecting. Someone who could see beyond the reputation and the danger, to the man I really am underneath it all. Someone who was brave enough to shatter my window and strong enough to steal my heart." I drifted off to sleep in his arms, feeling more secure and more cherished than I had ever thought was possible. And in the morning, when I woke up and found Dante already awake, just watching me with that intense focus I now knew meant he was planning our future, I understood something essential. Love was never meant to be easy. It was never meant to be simple or completely safe or predictable. Sometimes love shows up at 3 in the morning, bleeding and desperate, and crashing through your windows. Sometimes it wears expensive suits, carries firearms, and commands entire empires. Sometimes love asks for absolutely everything you have, your trust, your vulnerability, and the courage to finally stop running away. And sometimes, if you are brave enough to accept it, love completely transforms your world. It turns old gyms into academies, danger into a feeling of safety, and fear into a sense of home. 8 months later, I stood inside that same academy, now 7 months pregnant with twins, who kicked me relentlessly, teaching a class of 20 women the fundamentals of self-defense. Dante watched me from the back of the room. He had long since abandoned the pretense that he was not going to hover over me for the entire duration of my pregnancy. After the class ended, he walked up to me with a bottle of water and a protein bar. "You have to eat. The babies need the nutrition." "The babies need their father to relax a little," I countered, but I accepted the snacks he offered me anyway. "We are fine, Dante. I am fine. The doctors keep saying I am the healthiest pregnant patient they have seen in months. That is only because I make certain that you get enough rest, eat the right foods, and do not overdo it." He led me toward a chair and then knelt right in front of me, carefully untying my training shoes. "Your feet are really swollen. My feet were swollen all the time. I was 31 weeks pregnant with twins, after all. Everything on my body felt swollen." Still, I allowed him to massage them because underneath all the overprotective behavior, Dante's touch was sincere and gentle, and it was precisely what I needed in that moment. "Just 1 month until the academy officially opens," he murmured, focusing on my left foot. "Are you positive you want to be here for that? The babies might arrive ahead of schedule. The academy will open on its scheduled day whether I am there or not, but I fully intend to be present." This is my dream, Dante. It is our dream. I am not going to miss it over some swollen ankles and a sore back. He glanced up at me, and the deep love I saw in his eyes stole my breath. You are incredible. Do you realize that? Most women would be at home resting, getting ready for the birth. But here you are, teaching other women how to defend themselves and building something that will truly matter. I had the best teacher, I whispered, cupping his face in my hands. You are the one who showed me that deep trauma can be reshaped into a powerful purpose, that violence can be met with protection, and that our darkest nights can become the very foundation for the best life imaginable. Dante got to his feet, bringing me up with him and wrapping me in his arms. My pregnant stomach was pressed firmly against his chest, with our babies kicking in the space between us. I could feel his smile in my hair. I love you, he whispered into my ear. I love this family of ours. I love the entire life we have constructed out of shattered windows and rescues in the middle of the night. And I give you my word, sailor, our children will be raised knowing their mother is the strongest, most courageous, and most beautiful woman I have ever known. And their father, I added, is the man who saw a bleeding stranger and recognized someone who deserved to be saved, who was worth keeping, and who was worthy of being loved for all time. We remained there in the quiet of the empty academy, simply holding one another, two souls who had discovered their home in the most unlikely way. Then, 3 weeks later, our twins came into the world, a perfect boy and a perfect girl, both healthy and cherished beyond any measure. We gave them the names Hope and Justice, because that is exactly what we had built together. We built hope for a brighter future, and we delivered justice for every woman who had ever endured what I had. And the entire journey began with a broken window, a man who was dangerous, and one straightforward question: who hurt your face? I had come to understand that the answer to that question was never as important as everything that happened afterward. It was about the protection, the boundless love, and the profound transformation of violence into something truly beautiful. Dante Ravencroft asked me a simple question: who hurt my face? And after that moment, he dedicated the rest of his existence to ensuring that no one could ever harm me again. That was the actual story. It was not about the damage, but about the recovery. It was not about the initial danger, but about the lasting safety that followed. It was never about the fear, but about the powerful love that ultimately overcame it all.